The direction of your feet in conversation. The feet are often considered the most honest part of the human body because we rarely consciously monitor them. When you are engaged in a conversation, your feet naturally point toward the person who holds your genuine interest or respect. Conversely, if your feet are angled toward the door or away from the group, your subconscious is already planning its exit. This habit reveals your true social priorities and whether you are all in or merely performing politeness while your mind drifts elsewhere. 2. How you hold your phone while waiting. Observation of a person in a state of boredom or idle time reveals their relationship with their inner self. Those who clutch their phone like a shield, scrolling mindlessly the second a moment of silence occurs, often harbor a subconscious discomfort with their own thoughts or a high level of social anxiety. In contrast, those who keep it tucked away reveal a higher degree of self-sufficiency and a lower need for constant external validation or dopamine-driven distraction. 3. The speed at which you eat. The tempo of your meals is a direct reflection of your internal clock and your approach to life's rewards. Fast eaters are often goal-oriented, productive, and competitive, viewing the meal as a task to be cleared so they can move on to the next win. Slow eaters, however, tend to be people who value the process over the result, revealing a personality that is appreciative, perhaps a bit stubborn, and deeply rooted in the present moment. 4. Your reaction to a mistake by a waiter. How you treat someone who is in a subordinate service position is the ultimate litmus test for your character. If your reflex is to be gracious and minimize the error, it reveals an empathetic nature and a secure ego that doesn't need to punch down to feel powerful. If you instinctively point out the flaw with coldness or irritation, it reveals an underlying need for control or a subconscious projection of your own insecurities onto others. 5. The way you walk, gait, and stride. Your physical movement through space tells a story of your confidence and your destination. A heavy walker who plants their heels firmly often reveals a grounded, persistent nature, while those who walk on the balls of their feet may be more anxious or agile-minded. A long, fast stride suggests an ambitious person focused on the future, whereas a slower, wandering gait reveals someone who is more observant and perhaps less concerned with societal expectations of productivity. 6. Mirroring the body language of others. Subconsciously mimicking the posture or gestures of a conversational partner is a sign of high empathy and a desire for social harmony. If you find yourself leaning in when they do or crossing your legs in tandem, it reveals that you are a bridge builder who seeks to create rapport. If you remain rigid and physically distinct, it may suggest a fiercely independent streak or a subconscious defensive wall that keeps others at a distance. 7. The placement of your hands during a meeting. Hands hidden under table or tucked into pockets often signal a lack of transparency or a feeling of being overwhelmed. Those who keep their hands visible, palms occasionally open, reveal a subconscious honesty and a willingness to be vulnerable. This habit exposes whether you feel like a participant in your environment or a spectator trying to protect yourself from it. 8. Your punctuality reflex. Being chronically early is often a sign of a pleaser personality or someone who suffers from high anticipatory anxiety, needing to control the environment before others arrive. Being chronically late, however, may reveal a subconscious belief that your time is more valuable than others, or a resistance personality that struggles with the constraints of authority and schedule. 9. How you handle your trash. The habit of holding onto a piece of litter until you find a bin, even when no one is watching, reveals an internalized sense of duty and high agreeableness in personality traits. Those who might leave a cup on a random shelf in a grocery store reveal a lack of civic empathy or a subconscious feeling that someone else is always responsible for their messes, reflecting a sense of entitlement in their broader life. 10. The volume of your voice in public. The acoustic footprint you leave in a room reveals your level of self-awareness and your need for attention. Those who speak loudly in quiet spaces often have a subconscious need to dominate their surroundings or a lack of social radar. Those who instinctively lower their voice reveal a respect for boundaries and a personality that finds power in subtlety rather than noise. The inner landscape. 11. Fidgeting with jewelry or pens. Repetitive tactile habits are self-soothing mechanisms used by the nervous system to manage excess energy or stress. If you twist your ring or click a pen, it reveals an active, perhaps overstimulated mind that requires a physical outlet for internal tension. It shows you are likely a deep thinker who struggles with a busy internal monologue. 12. Your eye contact patterns. People who look away quickly after meeting someone's gaze often reveal a subconscious feeling of being found out or a lack of social confidence. Those who maintain steady, but not aggressive, eye contact reveal a personality that is comfortable with intimacy and possesses a high degree of emotional intelligence. It shows you are willing to truly see others and be seen in return. 13. The way you organize your digital desktop. A cluttered screen with hundreds of unsorted icons reveals a divergent thinker, someone who prioritizes ideas over systems and may struggle with executive function. A pristine, folder-heavy desktop reveals a convergent thinker who finds peace in categorization and structure, suggesting a personality that manages anxiety through external order. Image comparing a cluttered vs. organized digital workspace and cognitive styles. 14. Your impulse to fix or listen. When a friend shares a problem, your immediate subconscious reaction reveals your emotional role. If you jump to advice, you are a controller who finds safety in solutions. If you simply nod and empathize, you are a nurturer who understands that emotional resonance is more valuable than a fix. This reveals whether you see the world as a series of problems or a series of experiences. 15. How you take your coffee or tea. The complexity of your drink order can mirror the complexity you demand from your life. Simple, black coffee drinkers often value efficiency and directness, sometimes to the point of being blunt. Those with highly specific, multi-layered orders may be more detail-oriented and particular, revealing a subconscious need for life to be just so to feel comfortable. 16. The frequency of your self-touch gestures. Touching your neck, face, or hair during a difficult conversation is a mammalian reflex to protect vulnerable areas. High frequency of these gestures reveals a personality that is currently feeling exposed or defensive. It is a tell that you are feeling more threatened than your words might suggest, revealing a sensitive and perhaps easily bruised ego. 17. Your resting facial expression. What your face does when it's off is a map of your most common emotions. A resting scowl may reveal a lifetime of critical thinking or suppressed anger, while a resting softness suggests a generally optimistic or contented temperament. This is the default setting of your soul, showing the world your baseline emotional state. 18. How you respond to compliments. The habit of deflecting a compliment, "Oh, this old thing," reveals a subconscious struggle with self-worth or a fear of being perceived as arrogant. Accepting a compliment with a simple "thank you" reveals a healthy level of self-assurance and the ability to own your space in the world without apology. 19. The way you sleep positioning. Though largely unconscious, sleep positions are often linked to our vulnerability. The fetal position reveals a subconscious need for protection and a sensitive, softer interior. Sprawling out, the starfish, reveals a personality that is bold, social, and comfortable taking up space, whereas sleeping on the stomach can suggest a defensive or secretive nature, literally shielding the softest parts of the body. 20. Your narrative bias, the but habit. Listen to how often you use the word, but, I like the movie, but, reveals a critical, skeptical mind that is always looking for the catch. Changing this habit to and, I like the movie, and, reveals an additive, open-minded personality that looks for ways to expand reality rather than trim it down. 21. The eyebrow flash upon seeing someone. The tiny, microsecond raise of the eyebrows when you recognize a person is an ancient biological signal of friend or foe. If you instinctively flash your eyebrows when someone enters the room, it reveals a subconscious openness and a genuine warmth towards social interaction. If your brow remains heavy or static, it may reveal a more guarded, skeptical nature or a personality that requires significant time to build trust and warm up to others. 22. How you hold your bag or briefcase. The way you carry your belongings in public reveals your level of defensive posture. Holding a bag tightly against the front of your body acts as a subconscious shield, suggesting a feeling of vulnerability or a need for protection in social spaces. Carrying a bag loosely at your side or over one shoulder reveals a personality that feels secure and dominant in their environment, unburdened by the need to protect their center. 23. The habit of checking your watch or phone while someone is talking. Even if you only glance for a split second, this reflex reveals your attention economy. If you do this frequently, your subconscious is signaling that you prioritize the next thing over the now, revealing an opportunistic or restless personality. Those who can go an entire conversation without checking a device reveal a high degree of respect for social presence and a disciplined mind that can filter out the noise of digital urgency. 24. Your response to a sudden loud noise. The startle reflex is a window into your nervous system's baseline. If you jump significantly or stay rattled for minutes, it reveals a highly sensitive, hypervigilant personality, often associated with high creativity but also high anxiety. If you barely flinch, it suggests a more stoic, low-reactivity temperament, someone who is difficult to rattle but may also be less attuned to subtle emotional shifts in others. 25. The way you exit a conversation. Pay attention to how you physically leave a room. Do you slowly back away while still talking, or do you turn and walk decisively? Backing away often reveals a subconscious fear of offending others or a pleaser trait that finds it hard to set boundaries. A decisive turn and exit suggests a person who values efficiency and possesses the self-confidence to end an interaction without over-explaining their departure. 26. Interrupting to finish someone else's sentence. While often intended as a sign of being in sync, the habit of finishing others' sentences reveals an underlying impatience or a subconscious desire to control the narrative. It shows that your mind is moving faster than the social interaction, suggesting a driver personality who values the point more than the process of communication. 27. How you laugh in a group setting. When a group laughs, people instinctively glance at the person they feel closest to or the person they most want to impress. Your laughter glance reveals your subconscious social hierarchy and your deepest emotional alliances. This habit acts as a real-time map of your loyalties, showing exactly who you consider your safety net in a crowd. 28. Your habit of grooming yourself in public. Subconsciously smoothing your hair, adjusting your tie, or checking your reflection in a window reveals your level of self-monitoring. Those who do this constantly are often preoccupied with their social mask and how they are being perceived by others. Those who forget their appearance entirely once they leave the house reveal a personality that is more internally referenced, prioritizing their own experience over the view others have of them. 29. The use of filler words, like. The specific filler words you use reveal your cognitive waiting room. Frequent use of like often reveals a desire to be relatable and soft-spoken, avoiding harsh definitives. Frequent use of or suggests a person who is highly cautious about their accuracy, revealing a subconscious fear of being wrong or imprecise in their delivery. 30. How you place your personal items on a table. If you spread your keys, phone, and wallet out to cover the surface of a restaurant table, you are subconsciously marking territory. This reveals a dominant, perhaps slightly possessive personality that likes to feel at home everywhere they go. If you keep your items neatly tucked in your pockets or a small corner, it reveals a more reserved nature that tries to minimize its footprint and respect the neutral space of others. The cognitive default. 31. The way you write graphology basics. In handwriting, the letter I represents the ego. If your I is large and elaborate, it reveals a subconscious desire to be noticed and a strong sense of self. If it is a small, simple line, it reveals a personality that is humble, perhaps self-effacing, or someone who prefers their work to speak louder than their identity. The weight of the pen, how hard you press, reveals the level of emotional intensity you carry. 32. Your reflexive reaction to a compliment given to someone else. If your first instinct is to feel a ping of envy or to immediately compare yourself, it reveals an out-referenced self-worth that is dependent on status. If you feel genuine vicarious joy, it reveals a secure attachment to yourself, showing that you don't view life as a zero-sum game where another's win is your loss. 33. The habit of apologizing for things not your fault. Chronic apologizing for the weather, for being in someone's way in a wide hallway, or for things beyond your control reveals a subconscious, low-status positioning or a history of being blamed. It shows a personality that prioritizes peace at any cost, often at the expense of their own self-respect and boundaries. 34. How you organize your physical bookshelf. Organizing by color reveals a visually aesthetic mind that prioritizes feeling and atmosphere. Organizing by genre or alphabet reveals a systematic logical mind that prioritizes retrieval and order. A chaotic, double-stacked shelf reveals a collector personality who finds security in the presence of knowledge rather than the order of it. 35. Your habit of crossing your arms. While often dismissed as just comfortable, crossing your arms is a subconscious block. If you do this while listening to a new idea, it reveals a skeptical or defensive mind. However, if you do it while working alone, it can reveal a self-hugging comfort reflex, showing that you are deeply focused and trying to keep your energy contained for a difficult task. 36. The way you sketch or doodle during a call. Doodling is the brain's way of staying online during passive tasks. Geometric shapes, squares, triangles reveal a subconscious need for structure and a practical, logical mind. Fluid shapes, flowers, faces, swirls reveal a more emotional, creative, and perhaps dreamer personality. Dark, heavily shaded doodles often reveal underlying tension or a subconscious working through of a difficult problem. 37. Your choice of seat in a public space. Choosing the wall seat or the corner reveals a subconscious need for security and back protection, a classic trait of observant or introverted people. Choosing the middle of the room reveals a high-sensation seeker who wants to be at the heart of the action, showing a personality that is comfortable being the center of the field. 38. The speed of your decision-making for small tasks. Agonizing over a restaurant menu for 10 minutes reveals a maximizer personality, someone who is terrified of making a suboptimal choice and often suffers from decision fatigue. Deciding in 30 seconds reveals a satisficer, someone who understands that good enough is efficient, showing a personality that values time over perfection. 39. How you handle open loops, unread emails notifications. If you can't stand having an unread notification bubble, you have a subconscious need for closure and order. This reveals a personality that is highly responsible, but perhaps easily stressed by unfinished tasks. If you have 4,000 unread emails, you have a high tolerance for chaos, revealing a mind that prioritizes the big picture and refuses to be bothered by the clutter of minor demands. 40. The way you grip your steering wheel. Hands at 10 and 2 reveal a rule follower who finds safety in the correct way of doing things. One hand at the top reveals a cool, detached persona, while holding the bottom of the wheel suggests a minimalist who is trying to conserve energy. Gripping the wheel tightly reveals a personality that views life as a high-stakes struggle, always alert for the next collision. 41. How you treat your physical keys. The way you handle the objects that grant you access to your private life, your home and car keys, is a direct reflection of your sense of security. If you have a specific, ritualistic spot for them the moment you walk in, it reveals a subconscious need for order and a desire to lock away the outside world to feel safe. If you constantly lose them or throw them haphazardly, it suggests a personality that is perpetually in transition, perhaps struggling to feel fully at home or grounded in their current reality. 42. Your habit of checking the lock multiple times. The double-check reflex is less about memory and more about a subconscious lack of trust in your own actions or the safety of the world. If you find yourself returning to the door 3 times to ensure it's locked, it reveals a high level of anticipatory anxiety, a mind that is constantly simulating worst-case scenarios. This habit reveals a personality that uses repetitive rituals to soothe a deep-seated feeling of powerlessness against external threats. 43. How you organize your grocery cart. If you place items in your cart with a Tetris-like precision, heavy items at the bottom, fragile items protected, labels facing up, you reveal a systematic structuralist mind. This habit shows that you process information by categorizing and stabilizing it, likely making you an excellent planner. If your cart is a chaotic jumble of random impulse buys, it reveals a spontaneous experiential personality that prioritizes immediate desires over future efficiency. 44. Your reflex to fill the silence. When a lull occurs in a group conversation, the person who rushes to speak first is often the one with the highest level of social responsibility or the highest level of internal discomfort. This habit reveals whether you view silence as a void that must be conquered, suggesting anxiety, or a space that can be shared, suggesting security. It identifies you as either a social caretaker who feels responsible for everyone's comfort or an observer who is comfortable with ambiguity. 45. The way you stand in an elevator. Elevators are microsocial laboratories. Do you stand in the corner facing the door, staring at the floor, or do you stand in the center? Those who seek the corner reveal a subconscious prey reflex, protecting their back and minimizing their profile. Those who stand in the center or acknowledge others with a nod reveal a dominant, secure personality that views the public sphere as a safe territory rather than a gauntlet of potential threats. 46. Your habit of touching your teeth with your tongue. Often done when deep in thought or under pressure, this subtle habit is a form of proprioceptive grounding. It reveals that you are an internal processor who needs a physical anchor to stay focused while your mind explores complex abstract ideas. This habit often identifies someone who is more intellectually rigorous than they appear on the surface, using a private physical sensation to maintain mental clarity. 47. How you respond to unexpected rain. Your reaction to sudden change in the environment you can't control reveals your adaptability quotient. If you immediately get frustrated and complain about your hair or clothes, it reveals a personality that struggles with cognitive flexibility and needs life to follow a script to feel happy. If you laugh or simply adjust your pace without a fuss, it reveals a resilient, stoic core that understands the futility of fighting the inevitable. 48. The way you hold a pen, the grip. A death grip where the knuckles turn white reveals a high-pressure personality that approaches tasks with intense, sometimes counterproductive, focus. It shows a subconscious belief that effort is synonymous with strain. A light, fluid grip reveals a more process-oriented mind that allows ideas to flow without the friction of perfectionism, suggesting a personality that trusts its own instincts. 49. Your habit of biting your lip. Biting the lip is a classic inhibition gesture. It reveals that you are literally holding back words or emotions. Subconsciously, this habit appears when you are judging your own thoughts before they leave your mouth, revealing a highly self-critical personality or someone who is chronically worried about saying the wrong thing in a social context. 50. How you arrange your pillows on your bed. If your bed is covered in decorative pillows that must be meticulously moved every night, it reveals a personality that values social signaling and appearances, a desire to project an image of a perfect life. If you have one flat utilitarian pillow, it reveals a minimalist who views the world through the lens of function over form, suggesting a straightforward and perhaps slightly blunt approach to relationships. 51. Your reflex to check your reflection in dark windows. Often labeled as vanity, the impulse to check your reflection in a shop window is actually about realigning the self. It reveals how much your identity is tied to your social mask. If you check constantly, you are subconsciously worried that your internal self and external image are out of sync. If you never look, it reveals a personality that has either totally integrated their ego or is remarkably indifferent to the gaze of the world. 52. How you walk down a crowded sidewalk. Do you weave through the gaps, or do you walk a straight line and expect others to move? The weaver reveals an agile, accommodating personality that seeks the path of least resistance. The straightliner reveals a dominant, perhaps rigid personality that believes the world should accommodate their trajectory. This habit exposes your subconscious power dynamic with the rest of humanity. 53. The habit of clearing your throat before speaking. If you clear your throat every time you're about to make a point, it reveals a subconscious status check. It's an auditory signal to the room to pay attention, revealing a personality that feels they need to earn their space in the conversation. It can also suggest an underlying insecurity about the weight of what you're about to say. 54. How you treat a closed door. When you encounter a closed door in a public or semi-private space, do you knock softly and wait, or do you knock and enter simultaneously? The waiter reveals a high respect for boundaries and a potential fear of intrusion. The enterer reveals a high agency, results-first personality that assumes their presence is welcome, reflecting a subconscious sense of belonging and entitlement. 55. Your habit of sifting through your change. How you handle the small things, like coins or small bills, reveals your relationship with abundance. If you meticulously count every cent, it reveals a scarcity mindset, suggesting a personality that feels they must control every tiny detail to be safe. If you toss change into a jar or pocket without looking, it reveals an abundance mindset, or a personality that is more focused on the big picture than the minutiae. 56. The way you lean against a wall. Leaning with one shoulder reveals a relaxed, casual confidence. Leaning with your back flat against the wall reveals a subconscious need for total support, suggesting you might be feeling overwhelmed or seeking a sense of solidity in an unstable environment. It reveals whether you are posing for the world or resting from it. 57. Your habit of scanning a room when you enter. If your eyes immediately go to the exits, you have a tactical subconscious, a brain built for survival and high-stress management. If your eyes immediately go to the people's faces, you have a social subconscious, a brain built for connection and emotional mapping. This reveals your primary survival strategy. Is it escape or is it alliance? 58. How you wear your socks. Mismatched socks on purpose reveal a rebel creative who finds joy in small subversions of social norms. Perfectly matched, high-quality socks reveal a disciplined traditionalist who believes that if the things no one sees are in order, then the soul is in order. It reveals how much you value hidden integrity versus visible expression. 59. Your habit of adjusting your volume to match others. If you instinctively lower your voice to match a quiet speaker, you are a social chameleon. This reveals high empathy but also a subconscious desire to blend in to avoid conflict. If you keep your volume steady regardless of others, it reveals a steadfast personality that doesn't let the environment dictate its internal state. 60. How you end a phone call. The graceful exit, summarizing and wishing well versus the abrupt end, okay, bye click, reveals your view of relationships as either transactions or connections. The abrupt caller reveals a personality that is highly task-oriented and sees conversation as a means to an end. The graceful caller reveals a personality that sees the interaction itself as the value. 61. How you handle a slow internet connection. Your reaction to digital latency is a modern stress test for your subconscious. If you immediately become irritable, clicking repeatedly or sighing, it reveals a high-urgency personality that struggles with a lack of control and views time as a finite resource to be guarded. If you use the pause to take a breath or look away from the screen, it reveals a resilient, low-reactivity core that understands the difference between a minor inconvenience and a genuine crisis. 62. Your habit of grooming your workspace. Before you start a task, Do you need every pen aligned and every crumb cleared, or can you work in the middle of a mess? The clean slate worker reveals a subconscious need to eliminate external noise to focus, suggesting a personality that is easily overwhelmed by detail. The messy desk worker reveals a high-focus mind that can prioritize internal concepts over external chaos, showing a personality that finds security in their own thoughts rather than their surroundings. 63. How you walk through a doorway held by a stranger. The specific way you acknowledge someone holding a door, a nod, a verbal thank you, or avoiding eye contact, reveals your social debt reflex. Those who offer verbal thanks and eye contact reveal a personality that values social cohesion and feels a healthy sense of belonging. Those who walk through silently or with a quick duck of the head reveal a subconscious social anxiety or a feeling of being unworthy of the space being made for them. 64. Your habit of checking the fridge when not hungry. This is a classic searching behavior. When you open the fridge just to look at its contents without intending to eat, it reveals a subconscious need for comforting certainty. You aren't looking for food, you are looking for the presence of abundance. It reveals a personality that seeks external sensory input to soothe an internal feeling of boredom or restlessness. 65. How you arrange the apps on your phone home screen. Organizing apps by color reveals a visual intuitive mind that navigates the world through aesthetic patterns. Organizing by usage frequency or function folders reveals a utilitarian logical mind that prioritizes efficiency. If your home screen is a chaotic sprawl of multiple pages, it reveals a spontaneous personality that lives in a state of perpetual discovery, often reacting to life rather than planning for it. 66. Your reflex to protect your plate while eating. If you hunch over your food or keep one arm circled around your plate in a crowded setting, it reveals a subconscious scarcity instinct. This often identifies a personality that feels a need to protect their resources or someone who grew up in an environment where they had to compete for attention or space. It shows an underlying guardedness in how you enjoy life's rewards. 67. The way you hold a shopping basket. Holding a basket in the crook of your arm reveals a stable provider energy, someone who is comfortable carrying a burden. Holding it by the handles at your side suggests a transient quick energy, someone who wants to be ready to drop things and move at a moment's notice. It reveals whether you view your current task as a mission or a chore. 68. Your habit of looking at your feet while walking. If you spend most of your transit looking at the pavement, it reveals an introspective guarded personality. Subconsciously, you are prioritizing your own internal monologue and avoiding the threat or demands of social eye contact. If you walk with your chin up, scanning the horizon, you reveal a confident external personality that feels safe in and curious about their environment. 69. How you react to a service person remembering your name. If you feel a surge of warmth and immediately try to remember theirs, you have a relational subconscious that values community. If you feel a slight ping of discomfort or a need to maintain distance, you have a transactional subconscious that fears the obligations of intimacy. This reveals your closeness threshold in everyday life. 70. Your habit of straightening crooked pictures. The impulse to fix a tilted frame on a wall that isn't yours reveals a perfectionist harmonizer mind. You subconsciously view the world as a system that should be in order, and you feel a personal responsibility to correct errors in the environment. It shows a personality that finds it difficult to relax until the input from the world matches their internal standard of symmetry, the reflexive self. 71. How you treat your old clothes. Do you keep a comfort shirt with holes in it, or do you discard anything that is no longer pristine? Keeping worn-out items reveals a nostalgic sentimental core, a personality that values the history and feeling of an object over its status. Discarding them quickly reveals a forward-looking personality that prioritizes identity signaling and the constant renewal of the self. 72. Your habit of pointing your toes inward, pigeon-toed standing. Standing with toes pointed toward each other is a subconscious, shrinking gesture. It reveals a personality that feels a need to appear non-threatening or small in social spaces. It is often found in people with high empathy who are terrified of causing conflict or taking up too much psychological air in a room. 73. The way you handle a physical book. Do you crack the spine and fold the pages, or do you treat it like a sacred relic? The spine cracker reveals a utilitarian personality that values the content and the experience over the vessel. The protector reveals a reverent personality that finds safety in tradition, order, and the preservation of beauty. 74. Your reflex to correct someone's grammar or facts. The impulse to correct reveals a subconscious need for superiority alignment. If you can't let a minor error pass, your mind prioritizes correctness over connection. It reveals a personality that uses knowledge as a shield or a tool for status, often at the expense of social harmony. 75. How you sit on a couch when alone. Do you sit upright in one spot, or do you lounge across the entire surface? Lounging reveals a high ownership personality, someone who feels totally entitled to their space and comfort. Sitting upright even when alone suggests a high discipline or high vigilance personality, someone who never truly turns off their internal monitor. 76. Your habit of checking the weather multiple times a day. Constant weather checking is a subconscious attempt to control the uncontrollable. It reveals an anxious planner personality who needs to mentally prepare for the environment to feel safe. It shows a mind that is constantly living 15 minutes to 5 hours in the future. 77. The way you shake hands, the grip and pump. A bone crusher grip reveals a subconscious need to dominate or a fear of appearing weak. A dead fish grip reveals a personality that is disengaged, overwhelmed, or perhaps checked out of the social game. A firm two-pump shake reveals a balanced, reliable persona that understands social ritual and values mutual respect. 78. Your habit of humming or whistling to yourself. This is a self-stimulation habit. If you do this frequently, you have a high-energy subconscious that needs to create its own atmosphere to feel balanced. It reveals a personality that is generally self-sufficient and uses internal rhythm to stay buoyant in their environment. 79. How you respond to a gift you do like. Your micro-expression in the first half second of seeing the gift is your truth. If you immediately overperform a thank you, you have a people-pleasing reflex. If you pause and look for something specific to admire, what an interesting color, you have an analytical diplomatic mind that values honesty but prioritizes the other person's feelings. 80. The way you organize your wallet purse. Bills organized by denomination and facing the same way reveal a structured, disciplined mind that manages anxiety through financial order. A wad of crumpled bills and old receipts reveals a chaotic present personality that views money as a tool to be used rather than a system to be managed. 81. How you respond to an accidental bump in a crowd. The immediate reflex when someone bumps into you reveals your baseline defensive setting. If you instinctively apologize even though you weren't at fault, it reveals a harmonizer personality with a high degree of social guilt or a fear of conflict. If you immediately stiffen or offer a sharp look, it reveals a territorial subconscious that views the world as a series of boundary violations. This habit exposes whether your default stance toward humanity is one of apology or assertion. 82. Your habit of pre-cleaning before a housekeeper arrives. This common habit reveals a deep-seated judgment anxiety. If you feel the need to tidy up so that the person hired to clean doesn't see your true mess, you reveal a personality that is highly concerned with social performance and saving face. It shows that you value the image of being put together more than the actual utility of the service, suggesting a subconscious fear of being found out as disorganized or less than. 83. The way you handle a menu after ordering. Do you close the menu and hand it back immediately, or do you keep it open and keep looking at other options? Closing the menu reveals a decisive closed, cognitive style. Once a choice is made, the alternatives cease to exist. Keeping it open reveals a maximizer-doubter personality that is perpetually wondering if there was a better path, suggesting a subconscious struggle with FOMO, fear of missing out, and commitment. 84. Your reflexive reaction to being photographed. The photo face you instinctively make reveals your relationship with your public identity. Those who immediately strike a rehearsed pose reveal a brand-managed ego that is highly conscious of their legacy and image. Those who look away make a face, or appear uncomfortable reveal a personality that feels a disconnect between their internal self and their external shell, suggesting a subconscious discomfort with being fixed in time and observed. 85. How you arrange your shoes by the front door. Shoes kicked off in a pile reveal a transitional mindset, someone who sheds their public skin the second they hit the door and wants to forget the outside world. Shoes lined up neatly or placed in a rack reveal a ceremonial mindset, someone who respects the transition between public and private and finds security in the ritual of order. This habit reveals how you manage the boundaries between your different social roles. 86. Your habit of checking your sent folder after mailing an email. Rereading an email you just sent reveals a subconscious communication anxiety. You aren't checking for information, you are re-experiencing your own performance to see if you sounded intelligent or likable. This habit identifies a personality that is highly self-conscious and prone to social rumination, the act of replaying interactions in the head to look for errors. 87. The way you treat common area food, the office fridge. Do you take only what is yours, or do you feel comfortable using communal items like milk or condiments without asking? This reveals your tribal subconscious. Those who are meticulously strict reveal a high-boundary personality that respects systems. Those who are loose with communal property reveal a personality that feels a high sense of belonging or entitlement to the collective, showing a blurred boundary approach to life. 88. Your habit of touching your forehead while thinking. This is a containment gesture. Rubbing or holding your forehead reveals that you are dealing with a heavy mental load and are subconsciously trying to hold the thoughts in. It identifies you as an intensive thinker who views problem-solving as a high-pressure physical labor. It shows a personality that takes their responsibilities with extreme seriousness. 89. How you react to a service person making a small social mistake. If a barista forgets your name or a clerk mumbles, your reaction reveals your social status reflex. If you feel a need to correct them or show irritation, you are subconsciously using the interaction to stabilize your own status. If you offer a warm smile to put them at ease, you reveal a personality that is secure enough in its own status to prioritize the comfort of others. 90. Your habit of counting stairs or ceiling tiles. This is a form of arithmomania or rhythmic grounding. If you find yourself counting steps as you walk or tiles in a waiting room, it reveals a logical anxious subconscious that uses numbers to impose order on a chaotic environment. It shows a personality that finds comfort in objective facts and measurable data when their internal world feels unpredictable. 91. The way you hold a coffee mug, one hand versus two. Cradling a mug with both hands reveals a subconscious need for warmth and safety, a self-soothing gesture that mimics a hug. Holding it by the handle with one hand reveals a task-ready personality that views the beverage as a fuel rather than an experience. It reveals whether you are currently in a state of rest and digest or fight and flight. 92. Your habit of playing with your phone case. Peeling the corners or clicking the case reveals a restless creative energy. Your subconscious is looking for a tactile outlet for a brain that is moving faster than its current task. It shows a personality that is perpetually understimulated and needs constant micro-challenges to stay engaged with reality. 93. How you respond to a wrong number call. Do you hang up immediately, or do you politely explain that they have the wrong person? The abrupt hang-up reveals a utilitarian-guarded personality that views the world as a series of intrusions. The polite explainer reveals a social cohesion personality that views every interaction, even a mistaken one, as a moment to maintain human decency. 94. The way you sort your laundry. Sorting by color and fabric type reveals a methodical analytical mind that finds peace in the system. Throwing everything in together reveals a pragmatic impatient mind that prioritizes the result, clean clothes over the process. It reveals how much friction you are willing to tolerate in your life for the sake of a perfect outcome. 95. Your habit of checking your watch even when you don't need the time. This is a displacement gesture. Checking your watch during a lull or an awkward moment is a subconscious way of saying, I have somewhere to be, or my time is valuable. It reveals a personality that uses busyness as a shield against social vulnerability. 96. How you react to a compliment about your intelligence. If you immediately deflect it with a joke, it reveals a subconscious imposter syndrome or a fear of the expectations that come with being smart. If you accept it with a thank you, it reveals a personality that has integrated their abilities into their ego and is comfortable with the responsibility of their own talent. 97. The way you position your chair in a room. Do you angle it toward the door or toward the center of the room? Angling toward the door reveals a ready-to-exit subconscious, someone who never feels fully safe or settled in a social space. Angling toward the center reveals a high-investment personality that is ready to fully commit to the current environment. 98. Your habit of looking at your phone notifications first thing in the morning. This habit reveals your primary allegiance. If your first act of the day is to check for external demands, your subconscious is other-referenced. You live your life in response to the world. If you can spend 30 minutes before checking your phone, you are internally referenced. You prioritize your own mental state over the world's demands. 99. How you handle a slow-moving person in front of you. If you feel a surge of pedestrian rage, it reveals a type A personality that views every moment of life as a race to be won. If you simply slow down and use the time to look around, it reveals a type B personality that understands that the journey is the only thing that actually exists. This reveals your fundamental tempo. 100. The way you end a letter or email, the sign-off. Best is a professional shield. It reveals a guarded formal personality. Thanks reveals a transactional polite persona. Warmly or sincerely reveals a personality that is seeking authentic connection. Your sign-off is the final stamp of your ego on the world, showing how you want to be remembered after you've left the digital room. 101. How you squeeze the toothpaste tube. Squeezing from the very bottom and rolling the tube as you go reveals a meticulous preservationist mind. This habit shows you value order and the elimination of waste, suggesting a personality that is highly disciplined and perhaps a bit rigid. Squeezing from the middle reveals a spontaneous, practical mind that prioritizes immediate results over long-term efficiency, while not caring about the mess, suggests a personality that is comfortable with chaos and lives largely in the moment. 102. Your reflex to talk to pets in a human voice. If you speak to animals as if they fully understand your complex problems, you possess a high-projection empathy. This habit reveals a subconscious need for non-judgmental companionship and suggests a personality that finds human relationships occasionally exhausting due to their complexity. You seek a pure connection where your intent is understood even if your words are not. 103. The way you arrange your shoes under the bed. Hiding your shoes out of sight reveals a subconscious desire to clear the path for your subconscious mind before sleep. It suggests a personality that struggles with mental clutter and needs a pristine physical environment to feel psychologically safe. If your shoes are scattered, it reveals a transient personality that views the home as a base camp rather than a sanctuary. 104. How you react to a low battery warning. If you feel a surge of panic at 20% and immediately hunt for a charger, you have a high-dependency relationship with your digital tools. This habit reveals an underlying anxiety about being disconnected or unreachable, suggesting a personality that finds security in constant access to information. If you let it drop to 1%, you reveal a risk-tolerant or procrastinating temperament that enjoys the adrenaline of the last minute. 105. Your habit of checking behind the shower curtain. This reflexive safety check reveals a lingering evolutionary vigilance. If you do this every time you enter a bathroom, you have a tactical subconscious, a brain that is always scanning for concealed threats. It identifies a personality that is highly imaginative, but also prone to low-level paranoia or a need for total environmental control to relax. 106. The way you peel a sticker or label. If you use your fingernail to painstakingly remove every trace of adhesive, you have a perfectionist restorer mind. You cannot stand contamination in your environment. If you rip it off and leave half the paper behind, you reveal a utilitarian personality that views the world through the lens of good enough, prioritizing the function of the object over its aesthetic purity. 107. Your habit of testing the temperature of water. Do you stick a toe in the bath or a finger under the tap for a long time before committing? This reveals your risk assessment profile. The long tester reveals a cautious, analytical personality that needs certainty before action. The plunger reveals an impulsive, experiential personality that trusts their ability to adapt to discomfort once they are already in it. 108. How you organize your digital photos app. If you have folders for every year and event, you are a curator of legacy. You subconsciously fear the loss of memory and identity. If you have 50,000 unsorted screenshots and blurry photos, you reveal a present-focused personality that values the act of capturing a moment more than the utility of revisiting it. 109. Your reflex to smell food before eating. Even if the food is fresh, a reflexive sniff reveals a high-sensory or primordial subconscious. You rely on your most basic instincts to vet the world. This habit often identifies someone who is highly intuitive and gut-driven in their decision-making, trusting their senses more than the labels or promises provided by others. 110. The way you hang your toilet paper over vs. under. This classic debate is a dominance tell. Over, users are often more assertive, organized, and likely to take charge in social situations. Under, users tend to be more relaxed, flexible, and less concerned with establishing order in their immediate environment. It reveals your subconscious preference for accessibility versus concealment. The professional mask. 111. How you sit during a video call. If you sit perfectly centered and upright, you are managing your frame. This reveals a high degree of self-consciousness and a desire for professional authority. If you are slightly off-center or leaning back, you reveal a personality that values authenticity and comfort over image, suggesting you feel secure enough in your role that you don't feel the need to perform competence. 112. Your habit of nodding while being criticized. If you nod rapidly while receiving negative feedback, it's a pacification reflex. You are subconsciously trying to speed up the discomfort and show you are compliant to avoid further conflict. If you remain still and make steady eye contact, you reveal a resilient analytical core, a person who is processing the information rather than reacting to the emotion of the encounter. 113. The way you carry your laptop. Cradling it like a child reveals a subconscious view of your work as a vulnerable extension of yourself. Carrying it one-handed like a notebook reveals a high-utility view. Work is a tool, not an identity. It shows whether you are precious about your output or pragmatic about your productivity. 114. Your reflex to check the clock exactly when a meeting ends. This habit reveals your freedom reflex. If your eyes dart to the time the second the hard stop is mentioned, your subconscious views work as a confinement from which you are constantly seeking release. It identifies a personality that is highly protective of their personal time and likely views their true self as existing only outside the office. 115. How you treat the office candy jar. Do you take one piece every time you pass, or do you take a handful once a week? The constant nibbler reveals a subconscious need for micro-rewards to sustain focus. The handful taker reveals a binge and purge productivity style, someone who works in high-intensity bursts and then needs a significant recovery period. 116. Your habit of editing a message 5 times before sending. This reveals a high-stakes, social subconscious. You view every digital interaction as a permanent record that could be used against you. This habit identifies a personality that is highly sensitive to nuance and tone, often suffering from a fear of being misunderstood or judged for a lack of polish. 117. The way you arrange your pens on your desk. Pens pointing toward you reveal a defensive posture. You are the center of your world. Pens pointing away toward the door reveal an outward-facing posture. You are ready to hand a tool to someone else or engage with the world. It reveals your subconscious readiness for collaboration versus isolation. 118. Your reaction to a coworker's success. If your first internal thought is "how did they get that?" it reveals a comparative competitive subconscious. If your first thought is "that's great for the team," you have a collective harmonizer mind. This reveals whether you view the workplace as a ladder, zero-sum, or a web, synergistic. 119. How you handle a reply all mistake, yours or others. If you immediately panic and apologize, you have high social shame sensitivity. If you ignore it or make a joke, you reveal a high-resilience ego that understands the difference between a technical error and a moral failing. It shows how much you allow clumsy technology to affect your self-worth. 120. The way you write your signature. A large, illegible signature reveals a high status or private ego. You want to be seen as important but not necessarily read or understood. A small, clear signature reveals a humble, transparent personality that values clarity and accessibility over flair. It is the final graphic of your self-image, the social echo. 121. How you hold a door for a large group. Do you hold it until every single person has passed, or do you hand it off to the second person? The total holder reveals a martyr caretaker subconscious, someone who will inconvenience themselves for the absolute maximum social good. The handoffer reveals a collaborative, efficient mind that expects others to share the social load. 122. Your habit of looking at the floor in an elevator with strangers. This is the non-aggression reflex. By avoiding eye contact in a confined space, your subconscious is signaling, "I am not a threat." High frequency of this behavior reveals a highly civilized or socially anxious personality that is hyper-aware of the personal bubbles of others and terrified of an accidental intrusion. 123. The way you react to a baby crying in public. If you immediately feel irritated, your subconscious is task-focused. The noise is a distraction from your goals. If you feel a ping of sympathy for the parent, you have a biological empathy reflex. This reveals whether you view the public sphere as a place for your life or a shared ecosystem of human struggle. 124. Your habit of touching the car as you walk away. A quick pat on the roof or the hood is a bonding ritual with an inanimate object. It reveals a personality that animates their belongings, treating them as partners rather than tools. It identifies you as someone who forms deep, sentimental attachments and likely has a nurturing relationship with their environment. 125. How you order for someone else if they step away. Do you order exactly what they usually get, or do you try something new for them? The usual orderer reveals a loyal conservative subconscious that values safety and consistency. The experimental orderer reveals a controlling creative mind that wants to expand the other person's horizons, showing a personality that finds predictability boring. 126. Your habit of checking your appearance in the screen of a dead phone. This reveals a covert monitoring habit. Because it's less obvious than a mirror, it shows a subconscious desire to maintain your mask without appearing vain. It identifies a personality that is highly concerned with their social presentation, but wants to appear effortlessly put together. 127. The way you hand someone a sharp object, like scissors. Handing them handle first is the ultimate empathy tell. Your subconscious is prioritizing the other person's safety over your own convenience. This habit identifies a protective, nurturing personality. Handing them blade first, or just laying them down, reveals a detached, pragmatic mind that assumes the other person is responsible for their own safety. 128. Your habit of adjusting your chair when you sit at a new table. If you have to wiggle the chair until it's at a perfect 90-degree angle to the table, you have an alignment order subconscious. You cannot engage with the social world until your base is structurally sound. It reveals a personality that finds physical dissonance psychologically draining. 129. How you respond to a close call while driving. If you immediately yell or honk, your limbic system is in the driver's seat. You react to fear with aggression. If you go silent and grip the wheel, your prefrontal cortex is trying to regain control. This reveals your survival mode default. Are you a fighter or a freezer? 130. The way you end a handshake. Do you linger for a half second too long, or do you pull away quickly? The lingerer reveals a subconscious desire for deep connection and intimacy. The puller reveals a personality that values boundaries and autonomy, viewing the handshake as a formal necessity rather than a human bridge. The cognitive landscape. 131. How you handle slightly off symmetry. If you see a crooked rug and feel a physical itch to fix it, you have a harmonizing brain. Your subconscious views order as truth. This habit identifies a personality that is likely very good at spotting errors in data or patterns, but may struggle with ambiguity or creative mess. 132. Your habit of talking to yourself while working. This is externalized processing. If you narrate your actions, okay, now I move this file here, your subconscious needs to hear the logic to validate it. It reveals a verbal logical personality that uses language as a scaffolding for thought. It suggests you are highly self-aware and perhaps a bit self-critical. 133. The way you sort your trash, recycling versus landfill. If you painstakingly clean a plastic container before recycling it, you have a high-integrity subconscious. You do the right thing even when the system is invisible. If you wish cycle, tossing things and hoping they are recyclable, you reveal an optimistic, lazy mind that wants the feeling of being good without the labor of being right. 134. Your habit of counting down to a difficult task. I'll start at exactly 10:00. This habit reveals a subconscious resistance to effort. You are using numerical anchors to force your ego into action. It identifies a personality that struggles with initiation, but is likely very productive once the momentum finally kicks in. 135. The way you handle a new piece of technology. Do you read the manual, or do you just start clicking buttons? The manual reader reveals a low-risk ordered mind that fears breaking the system. The button clicker reveals a high-agency exploratory mind that views failure as data. This habit exposes your subconscious relationship with the unknown. 136. Your habit of saving the best for last, eating. If you eat your vegetables first to earn the steak, you have a deferred gratification subconscious. This is the hallmark of a long-term planner. If you eat the best part first, you reveal a hedonic present personality that understands that the future is uncertain and pleasure should be taken when it is available. 137. The way you doodle arrows. In subconscious sketching, arrows reveal directionality. Arrows pointing up reveal optimism and ambition. Arrows pointing down reveal a feeling of being weighed down or grounded. Arrows pointing in multiple directions reveal a personality that feels scattered or is currently searching for a new goal. 138. Your habit of fact-checking a friend during a casual story. Actually, it was Tuesday, not Wednesday. This habit reveals a subconscious accuracy dominance. You prioritize the truth over the vibe. It reveals a personality that finds imprecision irritating, often identifying a high intelligence but low empathy social style. 139. How you react to a blank page. Does a blank notebook fill you with excitement or performance anxiety? Excitement reveals a high-possibility mind that views the world as a sandbox. Anxiety reveals a perfectionist mind that views the world as a stage where every mark must be meaningful. 140. The way you group your tabs in a browser. If you have 50 tabs open in one window, you have a rhizomatic mind. Everything is connected to everything else. If you use groups or separate windows for work, life, and hobby, you have a compartmentalized mind. This reveals how you manage your mental energy. Is it a flood or a series of canals? The physical echo. 141. How you position your pillow when reading in bed. If you need it just so to support your neck, you have a high sensitivity, subconscious regarding physical comfort. If you can read in any awkward position, you reveal a high-focus mind that detaches from the body when the brain is engaged. It shows whether you are grounded in the flesh or living in the head. 142. Your habit of cracking your knuckles before a task. This is a combat ritual. Your subconscious is signaling that the work is about to begin. It reveals a personality that views effort as a physical engagement and uses minor bodily explosions to release the tension of anticipation. 143. The way you hold your umbrella. Do you hold it high to give others space, or do you hold it low to protect yourself? The high holder reveals a spatial empathy, subconscious. The low holder reveals a defensive utilitarian mind. It reveals your social footprint, how much of the world you feel entitled to occupy during a crisis. 144. Your habit of touching your neck when uncomfortable. The neck is the most vulnerable part of the human anatomy. Touching it is a vagus nerve soothing gesture. It reveals that your subconscious feels critically exposed. High frequency of this habit identifies a sensitive, perhaps easily wounded personality that uses self-shielding to survive social friction. 145. The way you step over a puddle. A wide, dramatic leap reveals a high-energy performative subconscious. A careful sidestep reveals a cautious efficient mind. This reveals your obstacle strategy. Do you conquer the problem or do you bypass it? 146. Your habit of checking the mirror before a big call. This is the armor check. You aren't checking for beauty, you are checking for cracks in the mask. It reveals a personality that understands that image is a tool of power and uses visual alignment to bolster internal confidence. 147. The way you fidget with your ring. Spinning a ring reveals a searching subconscious. You are looking for a cycle or a resolution to a problem. Pulling at a ring reveals a trapped subconscious. You are feeling the weight of a commitment or a situation and are looking for a release. 148. Your reflex to cover your mouth when laughing. This reveals a shame inhibition reflex. Your subconscious is trying to hide your joy or your unfiltered self. It identifies a personality that was likely raised with high decorum, standards, and feels that losing control, even in happiness, is dangerous. 149. How you position your feet under a table. Wrapped around the chair legs reveals a high-tension anchoring subconscious. You are holding on to the moment. Feet stretched out far reveals a relaxed dominant posture. You feel the space belongs to you. This is the hidden map of your social comfort. 150. Your habit of sniffing a new book. This is a sensory memory ritual. If you do this, you have a nostalgic romantic subconscious. You are trying to ingest the history and the potential of the object before you read it. It reveals a personality that finds physicality deeply meaningful in a digital world. 151. Your reflexive posture when entering a crowded elevator. The elevator is a high-pressure social laboratory where our primate instincts are laid bare. When you step into that small metal box, do you immediately retreat to the corner, squaring your back against the wall, or do you stand in the center, facing the door with a neutral gaze? Those who seek the corner are displaying a low vulnerability reflex, a subconscious desire to protect their six and minimize their social profile in a situation where escape is impossible. Those who take the center reveal a dominant secure subconscious, signaling that they feel no need for physical defense because they perceive themselves as the primary node of the space. This habit reveals whether your baseline orientation towards strangers is one of potential threat or indifferent coexistence. 152. The way you handle a cold drink with condensation. Watch how you interact with a sweating glass on a summer day. If you are constantly wiping the moisture away with a napkin or using your finger to draw in the dew, you possess a tactile regulatory mind. This habit reveals a subconscious discomfort with physical dissonance. You cannot allow an object to be in a state of mess while you are using it. It identifies a personality that is highly attentive to detail and likely manages their internal anxiety by polishing their immediate environment. Conversely, if you ignore the ring of water it leaves on the table, you reveal a high tolerance for chaos, suggesting a mind that prioritizes the big picture, the conversation or the drink, over the minor errors of the material world. 153. Your habit of ghost typing on your leg during a stressful talk. If you find your fingers moving as if you are typing on a keyboard while you are listening to a difficult lecture or a reprimand, you are engaging in a digital kinesthetic grounding exercise. This habit reveals that your brain has become so intertwined with the logic of the machine that you use the muscle memory of typing to process or transcribe reality in real time. It suggests a personality that finds safety in data entry and categorization, using a phantom interface to create distance between yourself and the emotional weight of the words you are hearing. It is the modern version of a worry stone, translated into the language of the 21st century worker. 154. How you position your backup items in a bag. The way you organize the things you might need, an umbrella, a spare battery, a first aid kit, reveals your existential insurance profile. If these items are buried at the bottom, you are an optimist pragmatist who believes the world will generally provide what you need. If they are in a dedicated quick-access pocket, you have a high-vigilance subconscious. This habit reveals that your brain is constantly running failure mode and effects analysis, FMEA. You are not just carrying a bag, you are carrying a safety net. This identifies a personality that finds it difficult to relax unless they have pre-solved every potential catastrophe, revealing a deep-seated need for autonomy and self-reliance. 155. Your reflex to check the date on every piece of food. Even when you just bought the milk an hour ago, the reflexive need to look at the best-by date reveals a distrust of the system. This habit reveals a subconscious belief that authority, the store, the manufacturer, is prone to error, and that you are the only reliable steward of your own safety. It suggests a hypervigilant personality that values empirical data over social trust. You don't believe the milk is fresh because it's in the fridge. You believe it's fresh because the code says so. This reveals a mind that finds comfort in external verifiability and likely struggles with blind faith in relationships or systems. 156. The way you exit a grocery store without buying anything. Walking out of a store empty-handed often triggers a strange, subconscious guilt reflex, as if you are a thief even when you've done nothing wrong. If you find yourself overperforming casualness, whistling, looking at your phone, or walking with a specific nothing-to-see-here gait, you reveal a high-compliance subconscious. You are hyper-aware of social judgment and the invisible gaze of authority. This habit identifies a personality that is highly susceptible to social shame and likely goes to great lengths to avoid even the appearance of deviance, reflecting a deep-seated desire to be seen as a good citizen. 157. Your habit of retying your shoes when you are nervous. This is a pre-flight ritual. If you find yourself kneeling to tighten your laces before a presentation or a first date, even if they were already tight, you are subconsciously anchoring yourself to the earth. The act of bending down and performing a complex manual task lowers your center of gravity and forces your brain to focus on a solved problem, the knot. This habit reveals a personality that manages performance anxiety through small competencies. You are telling your subconscious, I may not know how this speech will go, but I know how to tie this knot. 158. How you arrange the icons on your phone home screen. The digital landscape is the modern mirror of the soul. If your apps are organized by color, all the blue apps together, all the green apps together, you have a visual intuitive mind that navigates the world through aesthetic resonance. You don't look for the male icon, you look for the blue shape. If they are organized by functional folders, you have a systematic logical mind that prioritizes retrieval efficiency. If they are scattered randomly across 6 pages, you reveal a spontaneous fragmented personality that lives in a state of discovery, often being led by the world's prompts rather than your own plans. 159. Your reflex to clean the plate, even when full. The Clean Plate Club reflex is a powerful indicator of your relationship with scarcity and abundance. If you find it physically difficult to leave a single bite of food, your subconscious is still operating on a primordial scarcity model, the belief that the current reward must be fully consumed because the future reward is uncertain. This habit reveals an anxious pragmatic core, often found in people who value utility over experience. It suggests a personality that finds it difficult to set internal boundaries, listening to the body when an external goal, the empty plate, is in sight. 160. The way you carry your keys in your hand while walking to your car. Do you hold them loosely, or do you thread them between your knuckles like a makeshift weapon? The knuckle threader reveals a tactical defensive subconscious, a brain that is constantly simulating physical conflict in public spaces. This habit identifies a personality that views the world through the lens of predator and prey, suggesting a high level of underlying stress regarding personal safety. Conversely, if you fumble for your keys only when you reach the door, you reveal a secure, distracted personality, someone who assumes the world is a safe container and prioritizes their internal thoughts over environmental vigilance. 161. Your habit of touching the doorframe as you enter a room. Many people have a subtle, almost invisible habit of tapping the top or side of a doorframe as they walk through it. This is a spatial anchoring reflex. It reveals a subconscious need to mark the transition from one environment to another. By touching the frame, you are physically registering the change in your social map. This habit often identifies a highly sensitive personality that is deeply affected by the atmosphere of a room. You are subconsciously grounding yourself before entering a new energy field, revealing a mind that values stability and context. 162. How you react to a new version of a software you use daily. When the interface changes, is your first thought, "Oh, cool, new features," or "Why did they ruin it?" Your reaction to UI user interface shift is a direct measure of your cognitive plasticity. The hater reveals a traditionalist ordered subconscious that finds safety in predictable tools. You view change as friction. The explorer reveals a high novelty seeker who views change as growth. This habit exposes whether you view the tools of life as extensions of your body, which shouldn't change, or levels in a game, which must change. 163. Your reflex to mirror the accent of the person you are talking to. If you find yourself subconsciously adopting the lilt or vibe of a person with a different accent, you are a social empath. This chameleon reflex is a subconscious attempt to reduce social distance and build rapport. It reveals a personality that is highly agreeable and perhaps a bit identity fluid, prioritizing harmony over authenticity. You are telling the other person, "I am like you, therefore I am safe." It identifies a bridge builder who might struggle with maintaining their own solid center in a crowd. 164. The way you handle a broken object like a wobbly chair. Do you immediately try to fix it, or do you just learn how to sit on it so it doesn't wobble? Fixer reveals an active interventionist subconscious. You believe the world should conform to the ideal. The adapter reveals a passive resilient subconscious. You believe you should conform to the reality. This habit reveals your locus of control. The fixer believes they are the architect of their life. The adapter believes they are the sailor, adjusting their sails to a wind they cannot control. 165. Your habit of checking your pulse or feeling your neck during a movie. If you find yourself physically monitoring your own biofeedback during a tense scene, you possess a metacognitive subconscious. You are not just experiencing the emotion, you are observing yourself experiencing the emotion. This habit reveals a personality that is highly self-analytical and perhaps a bit dissociated from their feelings. You use data, your heart rate, to validate your experience, fear or excitement. It identifies a mind that is constantly quality controlling its own internal states. 166. How you arrange the icons on your physical desk versus digital desktop. If your physical desk is a mess but your digital desktop is pristine, you are a visual compartmentalizer. You prioritize the mental workspace, where the work happens, over the physical workspace, the shell. If both are messy, you are a divergent thinker who finds patterns in chaos. This habit reveals where your true focus lies. You manage the anxiety of choice by organizing the space that matters most to your primary identity. 167. Your reflex to look away when you are solving a hard problem. When someone asks you a complex question, do you look them in the eye or do you look at a blank wall or the ceiling? Looking away is a cognitive load management reflex. By cutting off social input, the other person's face, you are freeing up prefrontal cortex bandwidth to render the answer. This habit reveals that you are a deep processor who prioritizes accuracy over social performance. It identifies a mind that views thinking as a sacred internal act that requires isolation from the field. 168. The way you doodle when you are bored versus when you are stressed. Boredom doodles, spirals, faces, flowers reveal a seeking subconscious. Your brain is trying to animate a dull environment. Stress doodles, grids, heavy lines blackened in boxes reveal a containing subconscious. Your brain is trying to structure an overwhelming environment. This habit reveals your mental coping mechanism. Do you respond to empty space by creating, or do you respond to chaos by wall building? 169. Your habit of straightening your bed every morning. This is the first victory of the day. If you cannot leave the house without the bed being made, you have a momentum-based subconscious. You need to prove to the universe that you are in control of your immediate territory before you can tackle the outer world. It identifies a personality that finds stability in routine and uses small symbols of order to ward off the great entropy of life. 170. How you respond to a personal question from a stranger. Do you answer honestly, or do you give a vague social response? The honest answerer reveals a radical transparency, subconscious, someone who believes that context is for everyone. The vague answerer reveals a high privacy, ego that views information as power. This habit reveals your social filter and your boundary-setting default. It identifies whether you view the world as a community of peers or a competition for information. 171. Your reflex to check the back seat before entering your car at night. This deep-seated ritual is a relic of our evolutionary predator scan. Even in a safe, well-lit parking garage, the instinctive glance into the darkened rear of your vehicle reveals a subconscious that has never fully abandoned the high-vigilance mode of our ancestors. It identifies a personality that is highly imaginative and prone to scenario simulation. You aren't just looking for a person. You are mentally closing a security loop to ensure your environment is a controlled variable. This habit reveals that your baseline psychological state is one of self-reliance, reflecting a mind that finds peace only when it has personally verified its own safety, rather than trusting in the social contract of public security. 172. How you handle the last bite of a shared meal. When a single piece of food remains on a communal plate, your reaction is the ultimate status and empathy litmus test. If you immediately offer it to others, you possess a social harmonizer subconscious. You prioritize the vibe of the group over your own sensory satisfaction. If you sit in silence, hoping no one else wants it, you reveal a passive competitive streak. If you simply take it without a word, you reveal a high-agency dominant personality that views the world as a first-come, first-served reality. This microhabit reveals your resource management philosophy. Do you believe the world is a shared garden or a survival arena? 173. Your habit of petting or tapping your pockets before leaving a building. The triple tap, phone, wallet, keys, is the modern person's armor check. If you perform this ritual every time you transition from a private to a public space, you reveal a subconscious fear of fragmenting. You are ensuring that your digital and physical identity is intact before facing the world. This habit identifies a systematic planner who views their belongings as extensions of the self. It suggests a personality that is highly responsible, but perhaps easily destabilized by minor setbacks, revealing a need for tactile reassurance to manage the anxiety of the outdoors. 174. The way you exit a close call on the highway. After a near miss or a sudden braking event, do you immediately look in the rearview mirror to blame the other driver with a glare, or do you take a deep breath and keep your eyes on the road? The blamer reveals an external locus of control. You view the world's chaos as a personal affront that must be balanced by your judgment. The breather reveals an internal locus of control. You prioritize your own system recovery over the social justice of the road. This habit exposes your crisis response default. Do you seek to rectify the past or navigate the future? 175. Your habit of rereading a text message immediately after sending it. Even though you literally just wrote it, the impulse to read your own words through the eyes of the other reveals a high empathy, high anxiety subconscious. You are performing a simulated social audit. You are looking for tone leaks or nuance errors that might cause a misalignment in your relationship. This habit identifies a personality that is deeply concerned with perception management, revealing a mind that finds ambiguity in communication to be a high-risk state. You aren't just sending a message, you are launching an ambassador for your ego. 176. How you react to a new person joining your social group. When a stranger enters your circle, do you immediately bridge, making eye contact and introducing yourself, or do you anchor, turning toward your closest friend for a private comment? The bridger reveals a high-sensation open subconscious. You view new people as potential alliances. The anchorer reveals a protective tribal subconscious. You view new people as system disruptors. This habit reveals your social metabolism. How quickly can you digest new variables before they become friction? 177. Your reflex to fix your hair when you see your reflection in a mirror. This is the self-grooming reflex of a social primate. If you cannot pass a mirror without a subtle adjustment, you are constantly live-editing your social mask. This reveals that your identity is highly referenced by the gaze of others. It identifies a personality that views image as a tool of influence, suggesting a subconscious belief that if the shell is perfect, the interior is safe from scrutiny. It is the visual equivalent of clearing your throat before you speak. 178. How you organize the desktop of your computer versus your phone. If your computer desktop is a graveyard of icons, but your phone is folder perfect, you have a contextual order mind. You view your phone as your public utility, which must be efficient, and your computer as your private laboratory, where mess is allowed. This habit reveals where you feel most at home. The space you leave unorganized is the space where you feel most creative and free, whereas the space you micromanage is the space where you feel most observed and judged. 179. Your habit of checking the mail every day even when you expect nothing. This is a potentiality ritual. Your subconscious views the mailbox as a portal of possibility. This habit reveals a personality that is optimistic, restless. You are always looking for a new variable or a message from the world to break the monotony of the now. It identifies a mind that is perpetually open to the unknown, suggesting that your true life is always about to begin. 180. The way you doodle during a high-stakes meeting. If you draw closed loops, circles, chains, your subconscious is trying to hold together your focus and contain the stress. If you draw sharp points, stars, spikes, you are feeling aggressive, defensive, and are subconsciously weaponizing your boredom. This habit reveals your emotional valve. Do you vent your energy through fluidity, or do you solidify your energy through structure? 181. Your reflex to look down at your phone, to avoid eye contact with a passing acquaintance. This is the modern social stealth reflex. By feigning digital absorption, your subconscious is signaling a temporary invisibility. This habit reveals a personality that is currently socially depleted or high boundary. You are using technology as a psychological cloak to protect your internal peace from the obligation of small talk. It identifies a mind that finds unplanned intercourse to be a high-energy cost event. 182. How you wait for an elevator with others. Do you stand in a line, or do you sprawl around the lobby? The liner reveals a high system compliance, subconscious. You find safety in implicit rules. The sprawler reveals a low vigilance, high entitlement personality. You assume the space is yours until the elevator arrives. This habit reveals your social script. Do you view the public world as a set of rules to be followed, or a set of opportunities to be taken? 183. Your habit of touching your face while you are being praised. If you touch your chin or rub your eye when someone gives you a genuine compliment, it is a shielding gesture. Your subconscious is trying to filter the intensity of the social light being shined on you. It reveals a personality that has high integrity but low self-comfort, suggesting that you find admiration to be a form of exposure that requires a protective layer. 184. The way you handle a broken link or error page on the web. Do you immediately refresh the page 5 times, or do you navigate away and try something else? The refresher reveals a persistent confrontational subconscious. You believe the world should work and you will force the issue. The navigator reveals a fluid adaptive mind. You view failure as a sign to change your path. This reveals your obstacle philosophy. Do you bash through the door or do you find a window? 185. Your habit of checking the price of something you already bought. Looking at the price of an item after the transaction reveals a post-choice regret or comparison reflex. Your subconscious is looking for validation that you made a good deal. This habit identifies a maximizer personality that is perpetually worried about suboptimal choices. It reveals a mind that finds certainty in numbers, but anxiety in possibility. 186. How you walk in a group of 3. Do you naturally take the lead, or do you fall back into the third position? The leader reveals a directional, responsible subconscious. You feel the need to pave the way. The third reveals an observant peripheral mind. You want to see the dynamic of the other two before you commit. This habit reveals your power dynamic default. Are you the scout or the guardian? 187. Your habit of straightening a stack of napkins at a restaurant. This is a symmetry regulation reflex. Your subconscious is trying to quiet the environment by removing visual noise. This habit identifies a personality that is highly aesthetic sensitive. You find disorder to be psychologically loud. It suggests a mind that uses environmental micromanagement to soothe an internal overstimulation. 188. The way you answer a text while you are with someone else. Do you announce it, "Sorry, just got a reply to this," or do you hide it under the table? The announcer reveals a high social integrity subconscious. You are asking for permission to be absent. The hider reveals a conflict-avoidant guilty ego. You are stealing time. This habit reveals your loyalty priority. Is it the person in front of you or the device in your hand? 189. Your reflex to clear your browser history even when it's clean. This is a digital purge ritual. It reveals a subconscious desire for a fresh start or a tabula rasa. This habit identifies a personality that is privacy vigilant or shame prone, suggesting a mind that feels weighed down by the digital residue of the past. You aren't just deleting data, you are erasing your footprints. 190. How you end a casual walk with a friend. Do you walk them all the way to their door, or do you part ways at a convenient corner? The doorwalker reveals a completionist caretaker subconscious. You need to see the story to the end. The corner parter reveals a boundary-efficient mind. You prioritize the utility of the trip over the social closure. This reveals your service threshold. 191. Your habit of smelling a new piece of clothing. This is a chemical verification reflex. Your subconscious is ingesting the history of the item. It reveals a high-sensory personality that uses olfactory data to determine safety and belonging. It suggests a mind that is deeply grounded in the physical world and finds digital reality to be thin and unsatisfying. 192. The way you react to a compliment about your effort versus your talent. If you prefer being praised for effort, you have a growth mindset subconscious. If you prefer talent, you have a fixed status ego. This habit reveals your motivation engine. Do you work because of who you are or what you do? 193. Your habit of counting the seconds while waiting for microwave food. This reveals a high-urgency temporal tracking subconscious. Your brain is living in the future and views the present as an obstacle to be overcome. It identifies a type A personality that finds idle time to be painful. 194. How you handle a physical key in your pocket. If you are constantly fidgeting with it, you are subconsciously feeling for your power. The key is a symbol of access and authority. It reveals a personality that feels a need for constant agency to stay calm. 195. Your reflex to correct a crooked rug with your foot. This is a lazy perfectionist reflex. You possess a strong aesthetic sense, but a low energy for maintenance. This habit reveals a personality that wants the result without the work, reflecting a strategic minimalist mind. 196. The way you look at the sky when you step outside. Do you look at the clouds, the atmosphere, or the buildings, the limits? The cloud looker reveals a philosophical dreamer subconscious. The building looker reveals a practical architectural mind. This reveals your boundary of possibility. 197. Your habit of checking your wallet multiple times in a foreign city. This is the biological heart check. Your wallet is your survival organ in a strange land. It reveals a high-vigilance anxious traveler, subconscious. You don't trust the environment to hold yourself. 198. How you hold a heavy door for someone far away. If you hold it for someone who is 20 feet away, you are a social martyr. You are trading your comfort for moral superiority. It reveals a personality that uses service as a social signal. 199. Your reflex to touch your own hair when you see someone else's messy hair. This is the mirror neuron grooming reflex. Your subconscious is correcting the species. It reveals a high empathy social management mind that feels responsible for the whole. 200. The way you close this conversation. Your final choice, to keep reading, to say thank you, or to simply close the tab, is the ultimate habit. It reveals your closure threshold. Do you need a symphony to end a song, or are you comfortable with silence?